My name's Stephen Carroll. I'm the director of the Australian Tea Guild, which is a guild that looks at promoting tea culture and tea education in Australia. I've been interested in tea. My first memory is that I took my pocket money at the age of 13 and I went and bought 2 different types of tea at the local tea shop. And from then on, I've been fascinated by tea for a very long time.
My name's Owen Terry. I am a director at the Tea Guild of Australia as well. I've been interested in tea, well, for as long as I can remember. Being English, it was part of my upbringing certainly, and then when I started to travel quite extensively around the world, I started to learn a lot more about different tea cultures and tea drinking experiences. When I moved to Australia, I met with Steve and we founded the Tea Guild of Australia to promote the culture and education of tea to Australians and other individuals globally. When I trained to be a tea master under Stephen Carroll, I had very little knowledge of Korean tea actually, and it was Steve's passion for Korean tea that really exposed me to Korean tea and also ignited, I suppose, that passion in me as well.
So in my tea studies, Korea kept being mentioned as a place that produced tea and had a particular tea culture, but I couldn't find anything out about it, and I couldn't find any Korean teas that were available outside of Korea to purchase. So I decided that we would need to go to a tea festival in Korea, in South Korea, and we ended up at the Hadong Green Tea Festival in Jiri Mountain. From there, I was introduced to various forms of Korean tea by the tea producers, actually in Hwage Valley, and from there, I then explored further what then happened in Korean tea culture, how it was influenced by early Chinese and Buddhist thought, how it changed with the Confucian culture, and eventually returned following the end of Japanese rule and the Korean conflict in the mid-50s.
For me, Korean tea is very reminiscent of the land where it's grown. When I drink it and I smell the aroma and taste the liquor, I can really imagine the mountains and the forests and the valleys and the rivers of Jiri Mountain or Bosong or other areas of South Korea where the tea comes from, and for me that's absolutely fascinating.
Korean tea culture is very specific and very embedded within the Korean culture itself. So there are many things that make it unique. However, all tea cultures have the growing, the production, and then the brewing and tasting methods. They're quite distinct throughout the world, so we know there's difference to the Chinese, difference in the Japanese, difference in Indian, difference in what happens in Turkey, in the tea growing areas, in Africa. Very distinct in countries such as Australia that have a tea culture which is only really for drinking tea because it tastes good and it quenches your thirst and it stops you being thirsty. Whereas a Korean tea culture, very much like the Northern Asian Korean tea cultures, are there as, to begin with, a cultural and religious reflection of what's happening. It was very expensive to begin with, it was very special, it was royal, it was very high class. People mimicked that, they wanted the same pottery, the same porcelains, and eventually it became into the common person's arena. That doesn't happen in the Western world where it's used just purely as a beverage. Korean tea culture has very distinct pointers to the Korean culture itself. So dress, pottery, how it is taken, times of day, those sorts of things, which are unknown in the West.
Absolutely. There are thousands of different types of tea around the world, and I feel that life is a series of experiences that should be had. And Korean tea is an experience that is one of the better ones, absolutely, if not right up there at the top. Everyone should seek out new experiences, and I'm passionate about tea, and I feel that other people should be too. So if you do have an interest in tea, then Korean tea is definitely one you should try.